It is finally September. It is time for fall, and it is time to start tackling my September TBR. I have loved starting this series of tackling Timmy's TBR because every month Timmy's gives me a plethora of books and I have to try and read them, so I might as well read them all in a vlog for all of you and try to complete my very large this time TBR. Now, Timmy's gave me 10 books when you consider rollovers. One book I did roll over though in my TBR video, I ended up sneaking in right in the last days of August. So we're actually going into this month with 9 books on the TBR. Can I read them all in one month? Let's get started. The one I am going to start with is going to be for the prompt of treat your shelf, which means I have to go buy a book. Not a bad way to start the month. I already know what book I'm going to buy because I'm going to be buddy reading it with Victoria Masters, and it is Dark Air. This book is the sequel to The Dark Rise, which I read many months ago in like March, but that vlog just went out as part of my Mass Booktuber vlog. Victoria was a competitor in Battle of the Booktubers, recommended me the first book as part of being the Mass Booktuber, and it was my favorite book that I got to read for Battle of the Booktuber. 5 stars, very well could be one of my best books of the year, and this sequel is a 5-star prediction for me. So I think that's the best way to start off this month, is with a book that I'm like so anticipating. I wanted to dive right into this sequel when I read the first book, but obviously nobody knew I had read the first book, and I kind of wanted to be able to read it and scream from the rafters about it in real time, because I didn't get to do that with the first book because I was like reading them in secret. So now is the time. So let's go in the car. Let's go to Indigo. Let's buy the book and then spend the day reading as much of it as possible. I don't think I'll be able to read it like all today. It's quite a chunky book, but you know, we'll get a good dent. The first one was also chunky and I read it very quickly because I was like obsessed with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if I like dove into this and read it very fast, but you know, it's still a 16-hour audio, so it's still gonna take a minute. So when you are highly anticipating a sequel and you are basically expecting it to be a great book and to be a 5-star and potentially a best book to continue in the vein that the first book was, you kind of are scared of being disappointed. And frankly, I have absolutely no disappointment with this book. I am devouring this story. I'm loving this sequel just as much as I loved the first one. And I'm diving into these characters' backstories and this amazing magic system that I loved in the first book. It is the same day. I know I've changed because I have been reading all afternoon. I bought the book, I jumped on Sprints with Bree, and I have dived in and I've read 50% of the book. Not quite. I think I'm at like 49%, but basically midway through. I'm probably going to call it a day because I have to go do dinner and things like that. But I wanted to talk to you before I just whipped through the entirety of this book and said like no things. In the first book, we follow Will, and Will is finding himself being tracked down by a group of people. And he's like, why are they after me? Like, what is going on? And it turns out that he is the key to a prophecy. And these people are trying to get him so that they can raise the Dark King. And that is the main like part of the first book, is this group trying to gather artifacts that they need to raise this Dark King who was defeated centuries ago, but only defeated enough that he technically died, but could be like raised from the dead and re-inhabit the world and bring down the world with his dark magic. There's another faction called the Stewarts in the first book who are tasked, their entire organization is tasked with keeping this Dark King from rising. And they are also trying to get Will so that they can prevent this from happening and teach him the things he needs to know to not raise the Dark King. And we are seeing people being like reincarnated in different bodies, and who is who and how do they connect, and it's so integral. And every time you think you know all the tidbits you need, another tidbit comes, not a twist. It's not twisty. You just keep learning new layers. And it's so intelligent in the way it's layered this, I guess it's a magic system, but this world system with this Dark King, the political system within like the court of the Dark King and within the Stuarts and within this other organization. Like there's just so much happening. And you keep getting just enough information that you never feel lost. You never feel like unsteady in the story, but there's always something more to learn and something more to glean and to add another puzzle piece to this really intricate puzzle of this story. And in book 2, we are continuing that, where we are learning even more pieces and we are learning more about who is connected to what and how they factor in and why they're here and what part of the prophecy maybe they do or do not, align with. And it is so amazing. And I just can't get enough. I just keep reading it and I just can't get enough of these stories, these characters. I just love it so much. I am obsessed with this series. And I'm so glad that after months of being away from this series, I am coming back to it and just remembering immediately why I was so obsessed with the first book. I will devour the rest of this tomorrow. I know that's what's going to happen. I mean, I blinked and I was 50% of the way through. Do you know when you're like reading a book and sometimes you like need to take breaks because maybe your eyes are tired or your brain is tired or, you're just getting distracted because you need a break from reading. Like I didn't even notice hours was passing. Like it was one of those books where I don't even notice what is happening around me because I'm just so into the story. The timer would go off on sprints with Brie and I'd be like, wait a second, I need to finish my paragraph. Like I didn't even realize we were at the end of the timer. Like that's how much I love this book. And I can't wait to finish it out tomorrow. Like I know I'm just gonna dive in and finish it out tomorrow because I don't think I could wait any longer. Pages of this book was brought to you by emotional turmoil. Like I went through it. I went through so many emotions reading this book. I was scared for people. I was nervous. I was anxious. So many things were like passing through me because I knew things that a lot of the characters didn't know. And right up until the last chapter, I was waiting for some of the shoes to fall. Like I was waiting for some people to have the realization of different aspects of this story. And every once in a while, people would find out what I knew and the shit would hit the fan and we'd have to like continue past that and right up until the end. And I was holding my breath for this last chapter of like, how are we going to wrap up this book? How are we going to leave everyone? Because there is supposed to be a third book and it's not out yet. How am I going to wait for that third book? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I need it yesterday. I need it tomorrow. I need it as soon as humanly possible, but there is no release date, so I will wait patiently. I will wait. It's okay. I can wait. I don't want to wait. I want to immediately go into the next book, but I will be patient and wait. But to say that this sequel has solidified for me that this series is the best fantasy series I've read all year is an understatement. I flew through this book. I read it so fast and I didn't even notice how fast I was reading it. Like it just took no time at all. And I mentioned that in my last clip, so I won't belabor the point, but there are so many times where I'm invested in a character, but I don't know if what they're doing is the right thing. And I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm nervous for them. And the fact that you can bring me in and make me care about so many characters in a fantasy novel and to make me be invested in every single person's storyline is really quite amazing with the large cast of characters that there is. Highly, highly, highly recommend this series. This is the first time I've read anything by the author. I know that the author has another fantasy series and also a set of graphic novels that are very, very popular, Fens. So I need to dive into that while I wait for the third book of this to come out. But it's gonna be a struggle for me to wait. It's gonna be a hardship. And I can't even do anything about it right now. I think I'm gonna take the night off of reading because I think I'm just kind of needing to sit with myself, sit with this story, let it ruminate for a few minutes. But then I do need to get into the next book for this vlog because I have a few Libby loans just like calling my name saying like,
we're about to return, you can't renew us.
So you might want to read those books before you lose the audios. And I do need to do that. So I need to get into the next book for this vlog probably tomorrow. I don't think anything can compete with this. So I'm kind of glad that like Libby is taking the question out of my mind of like what to pick up next. Because I think if it were just up to me, I would be like completely lost because I can only think about this right now, if that makes sense. So we're gonna just go into the next book tomorrow that I need to read before Libby takes it from me. And that is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. This is my first fall book of the fall season, and it really is making me just have all the fall vibes that I wanted from my first kind of fall focus book. We have Annie, and she has just broken up with her boyfriend. She lives in New York, but she has decided to leave and move to a small town outside of New York. And this town is so cozy. The cozy vibes. Everybody knows everybody. She goes into a store and like someone will make her a latte and give it to her for free. Like it is so cute and cozy. We have so many moments of seeing like someone bake a pie, have some jam, going to the farmer's market, again, getting like cozy fall drinks. And it's just dripping with the cozy fall vibes. But it is a horror book. So it is cozy horror. And I don't know if I've ever read cozy horror, but is cozy horror my vibe? Maybe. Because I'm really liking the coziness with kind of like a mix of an edge. Every once in a while, something like creepy will happen and I'll be like, that's creepy. That's a little weird. But like, I like it. I like the mix. I think it's really, really working for me. So again, Annie moves to this town. While she's there, she meets Sophie. And Sophie is interesting. She gravitates towards Sophie, and Sophie is very welcoming to her. Annie really wants a friend, and Sophie kind of is that person for her. But everybody around Sophie seems to treat her a little bit oddly. They seem to be a little suspicious of Sophie. They kind of keep her at arm's length. However, she seems to own like most of the town. So everybody does know her and kind of defers to her in a lot of things when Annie is around. Annie is the teacher at the local school, and we see her working with the teenagers, seeing some bullying going on. She's an English teacher and also teaches ASL. And we're seeing her at the school, and we're seeing that she's having some trouble with her students. Again, I mean, they're teenagers. It happens. But some of them are like bullying her. And she brings that to Sophie. And all of a sudden, some things start to happen. Things start to take shape. And obviously, I know this is a witchy book, so I suspect Sophie of being some sort of witch. What kind of witch? Is it like a magical witch? Is it a horrific witch? Is it just like a woman who wants to live a different type of life, so society kind of casts her as a witch? I don't know, because there is a little bit of feminism mixed into this, which is very typical of like a historical witchy book. Although this is not historical necessarily. This is more modern times. But I think we are hearkening to the history of like witches, Salem witches, etc. So I'm not really sure how much like real magic there is in this book at this time, but there are some creepy things every once in a while happening. Again, with horror, I tend to not like it when things go unexplained. I'm a fantasy reader who wants world building, who wants explanations. So I will be disappointed if there isn't like an explanation for what is happening around Annie, what is happening around Sophie. But as long as it makes sense in the book, I'm okay with basically any, explanation. If it's just magic, if it is paranormal, as long as it's explained in the world and in the world building of the book, I'm here for it and I'm good with it. So I'm now wondering if like cozy horror is a type of horror I like. This is the first time I've ever read it, so I didn't know. I always say I'm not a horror reader, but I do like some gothic horror. Do I also enjoy some cozy horror? We're going to read another, I don't even have 200 pages left. This book is not very long. I've almost read half of it and I'm 100 pages in. It's under 300 pages. So I reserve my right to decide if I like cozy horror for when I hit the end, but it is possible that I have like unlocked a new subgenre that I enjoy. So everyone who has them needs to leave cozy horror recommendations in the comments, because I know now, at least from the one that I've read, that I would like to explore more cozy horror. I really liked Cackle. I'm going to give it a 4-star. I flew through this. It was so fun. I am going to dive into the fall activities now because like this is making me want to do fall activities. Also, I mean like it's fall. I'm like ready for fall activities, but like this just gave me all the fall feelings that I wanted. One thing I noticed when I was reading this book, which I'm going to clock. I'm going to clock when there are Disney references in a book. There were multiple references to like classic Disney princesses. We had Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, and I really liked seeing those just as a person who like loves a fairy tale, loves a Disney story, is kind of obsessed with retellings. I love little like hints in a book. So that really worked for me. I liked this story and I really liked Annie's story. As a person who is a people pleaser, trying to reform, but is a people pleaser to the detriment of herself at times, I related to Annie. This is Annie figuring out what her life should really be like for her, not what everyone around her has told her life should be like, not living for the people in her life, not living to please the people in her life, but to find out what she wants now that she is kind of away, doing her own thing in this small town, having the influences of Sophie. But even with Sophie, she has to decide to live for herself. And I really loved watching Annie come into her own and come into her power and come into herself as a strong woman. I really enjoyed that. Not saying that you can't have great friendships and great relationships and still be a strong woman. That is not what feminism is. But we are seeing Annie realize that she needs to tear it all down, tear down the mental structures that she's built for herself to empower herself into who she really wants to be. And I love a feminist story. I love a witchy story because a lot of time witchy stories are feminist stories. And we see instances in chat about hearkening back to the history of witches, which I know I talked about in like the previous update. And there is a little bit of magic in here as well. You've got a mix of magic. You've got a mix of like historical thoughts on witches. And you kind of have it blending almost seamlessly in Cackle. 4 stars, highly recommend. If you want a book that is going to give you small town vibes, cozy fall vibes, but with a little bit of creepiness, pick up Cackle. That being said, at this point, Libby is just deciding what order I'm reading these books in because, frankly, Libby loans come in and I mostly do audiobooks and immersion read. So I need to like line up my books with the audiobooks. So the next Libby loan that's about to be taken from me is for Ruth Ware's 0 Days. This book is a thriller, but I will say Ruth Ware does tend to lean more to like a mystery thriller, a murder mystery type style. I don't know if this is more classic thriller, but I have read a few Ruth Wares in the past. I do tend to like Ruth Ware because I do like a murder mystery, and I do like the way Ruth Ware writes. However, it has been a hot minute since I've read a Ruth Ware, mostly because I'm not currently reading thrillers. And I've been saying this all year. You've heard it. You've heard me say it many times. You're probably like, Brittany, stop talking about it. Stop telling me about it. But this is the truth, and I'm trying to get the ones off my shelves. This was voted by all of you in my most recent book haul reaction video. So that's kind of why I'm reading it right now, is because it was voted on by all of you. It's also one of my These Books Will Self-Destruct thrillers. So we're knocking out a lot of things with Ruth Ware's 0 Days. Let's dive in. This shouldn't take that long. I mean, it's a thriller. Shouldn't take long to read this. The one nice thing about a thriller is how fast you can read it. I've read 109 pages this morning just with my cup of coffee and kind of orientating myself with the story. I knew the basic idea of this story because I have talked about it in a few videos recently, TBR video for this, and also my book haul reaction vlog. So like there's been a couple of times where I've done the synopsis generally for a video. So I knew that we follow Jack and Gabe. They are husband and wife. They are security breach specialists, and one of them ends up murdered. So Jack is actually in the middle of breaking into a company. Her and Gabe are paid to break into companies to like find where the security is lacking. She's in the middle of breaking into a building. She does like the physical breaking in. He's a hacker and does like the, computer breaking into things. They're talking via like headsets, and she gets caught by the security team. So obviously, that's good. That's good. That's their job to catch her. She's there to see if she can be caught. So that all works out. But the people that own the company aren't answering the phone. So she does kind of get arrested. And eventually they sort out that she was like basically paid to break in by the people who own the company, and everything's all good. She goes home. And while she was at the police station, she couldn't get a hold of Gabe. And that was suspicious, but like it's 2:00 in the morning. She's like, maybe he went to sleep. I don't know. So she arrives and finds him murdered. And she goes into a state of shock. And the police are thinking she's being a bit suspicious in the way she's handling the after effects of her husband's murder. One thing that I really am enjoying about this book is how you're in her point of view and you're feeling her grief and her bewilderment and her shock along with her. When she finds Gabe, you can actually like really feel how she's in disbelief and kind of just going through the motions and not really knowing what to do because she can't believe this is happening. Now the police are thinking it's her, and she is using her background as being a security breach specialist to kind of evade their investigation while trying to figure out who actually killed her husband. Maybe it's due to one of the cases they've worked. I don't know, but I'm intrigued and I'm following along, and I'm really interested being in her story and in her perspective through the entirety. I think we stay with her perspective, and I'm interested to kind of stay with that because I think Ruth Ware is doing a really good job of making me feel the emotion she's having, making me understand why she's doing the things she's doing. Do I agree she should be doing the things she's doing? No, probably not. Is it probably the smartest things? No, but I mean, her husband just died. So I'm going to keep reading this today. I don't know how much further I will get today, but it's reading very quickly, as a thriller does. I cut it so close with this Libby loan to the point that Libby should have actually taken it from me. I was frantically listening to this while puzzling last night, and the time where it was supposed to be taken came, and it went, and luckily Libby let me extend my loan for an hour. I don't know why it let me do that. It must have noticed that like I could finish timely. I got a little notification, and I finished out Ruth Ware's 0 Days. The reason I cut this so close was because I was really enjoying it the last time I talked to you. I was having a good time. But this book drug on and on and on. I mean, it's a 14-hour audiobook, and I think for a thriller or even a mystery, which, I mean, technically this is more of a mystery than a thriller, that's just too long. It's too lengthy. And I knew who did the murder, and there was still 150 pages left. And I was like, what is left to do in this 150 pages? And it just drug. And it drug on and on and on. And we repeated so much information that just didn't need to be repeated. And the book just took too long in coming to a conclusion. And I actually think that is a common thing with Ruth Ware. I've read quite a few. And One by One, which I actually really like that story. It's one of my favorite Ruth Ware books, which I think is a controversial opinion, but it is. I felt went too long after the conclusion of the story. The story concluded, and then there was 50 more pages. And I was like, these 50 pages don't need to be here. And I felt that with this as well. We could have edited the ending of this story almost probably by 70 pages and still gotten everything out of this book that we were trying to get out of it. So because of that, I'm going to give it a 3-star, maybe a 3.5. I could potentially give it a 3.5, but like overall, 3 stars is what I'm going to give this book. And it was fine. It was really good. And then it became just fine, which is unfortunate, but is how it turned out. While I was doing this, again, I was doing a puzzle, and I finished my current puzzle last night, almost at the exact same moment I finished this book. I finished the puzzle maybe like 10 minutes before I finished the audiobook. So it's time for me to start a new puzzle today. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because just the other day when I was out shopping, I bought a Stars Hollow puzzle. It's fall, it's September, it's time for all things fall, and I feel like Stars Hollow and Gilmore Girls is so fall. And I've been watching one Gilmore Girls episode a day over this fall season to complete the entire series, you know, in a fairly timely fashion. I'm almost done season 1, not quite, but almost. So I am going to start my Stars Hollow puzzle, which I have right here because I wanted to show it to you because I'm just obsessed with this thing. I'm so excited about it. It's basically like a map of Stars Hollow. I don't know if you can see it, but it has all like the major places in Stars Hollow on this map. It has, what does it have? Miss Patty's, the Dragonfly Inn, Luke's Diner, Taylor's Soda Shop, Stars Hollow Library, Dosey's Market, Stars Hollow Books. I mean, that's Andrew's bookstore. Stars Hollow High School, Town Square, the church, Gypsy's Garage, Kim's Antiques, must have. Stars Hollow Historical Society. It is really hard to read this tiny font. So if it's taking me a second to read it, it's because it is so tiny. Oh, Winston's. It's definitely Weston's Bakery. The font is so small, but like I know the name of this bakery, so I don't know why I said that. Independence Inn, Suki's house, and Lorelei's house. So I'm going to pull this out and get started on this today. And I don't think it's going to take long to put this together because the houses are like super distinct. But yeah, this is my next puzzle. I have been in such a puzzling mood for the last, like, I don't know, 2 to 3 months. Like I always have a puzzle going. It's just my current go-to activity when I am doing audiobooks, or like sometimes I'll just pop over to my table, put like 3 or 4 pieces in while I'm like cooking dinner or whatever. Like this is just my go-to. Now for books. Tomorrow starts the Summer Scare Readathon, which is a readathon hosted by my friend Jess from the Hex Library. I'm not doing a dedicated vlog for this. I am using Tackling Timmies and the books on Tackling Timmies mostly to try and get a bingo on her bingo board. So it's like a 3x9. So I'm going to try and get a bottom bingo, the bottom 3, which 2 Timmies TBR books work for the 2 prompts on the bottom. The other one, I'm going to have to get a little bit creative, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So I'm going to be starting with a book outside my comfort zone, which I'm going to be reading In the Dream House. This book is a nonfiction, which is something that I really don't read that much, so that's outside my comfort zone. But it also has horror elements in it, according to the synopsis. So again, outside my comfort zone. As much as I enjoyed Cackle earlier in this vlog, I would not say horror is in my comfort zone. And I don't think this is like cozy horror. You know what I mean? Like it's horror. So it's nonfiction and horror elements outside my comfort zone. It's only a 3-hour audio, so this should not take long. I'm going to start this tomorrow though, when Summer Scare starts. Today, I'm going to be working on the 5-Star Project, which is a fun project with Leandra, Rainey, and Kelsey that I need to work on. So that won't be in this vlog. I'm going to read the book for that. But tomorrow I'm going to dive into this and start getting my bingo done for Summer Scare. Actually quite busy. So we are solidly into the week of Summer Scare. I talked to you at the end of last week, and the whole weekend I really didn't do a lot of reading. I got my hair cut, as you can see. I also went to a book swap, and I did take you along with me to that. And I did get 2 new finds, which I thought I would share with you really quickly, and then we'll dive into like how the reading's going, because it's been a minute. For you, it's been like 2 seconds. But for me, it's been a couple of days. So I ended up getting 2 books at the book swap, one of them being Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I am currently reading this with my patrons, and I borrowed it from the library because I didn't necessarily want to buy the Stormlight Archives until I knew for sure I enjoyed it. But the one that I got from the library was the full-size hardback of this book, 1,000-page hardback. And frankly, it's just like too big to be holding and reading. So I've had to like read here at the desk. So when I saw the mass market paperback, I was like, oh, that's going to be so much more useful in reading this. A lot easier to hold, a lot easier to manage. So it was free and it will make my life so much easier. So I picked that up. And then I also saw The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. And this is a book that I've had my eye on for a while, but I wasn't really sure if I was going to love it. So I didn't really want to buy it. So seeing it at a book swap, I was like, okay, now's the time. Now's the time to own this, give it a try, low risk, potentially high reward. So those were the 2 books I ended up getting over the weekend at the book swap. And again, I didn't really do a lot of reading this weekend. It's not a heavy reading weekend like I was hoping it would be. I did start a little bit of another book, but before we talk about that, let's talk about In the Dream House, which I actually just finished. I started it over the weekend, but I didn't finish it until today. It is a really quick read, and it's a really powerful story. It is nonfiction, and I think anytime someone shares their experience, there's so much power in sharing your story. No matter what your story is, there's just so much power in someone writing their experiences down for the rest of us. There's always something that we can take from someone else's experience, either to relate to and feel not alone, or to use as like something that we can take with us into maybe another relationship to prevent something that might be coming towards us if we start seeing the red flags that are kind of in this book before we get to the abuse in the relationship that the author, tells us about. And in this book, we see Carmen, and that is the author, obviously, and she is in a relationship with a woman, and her girlfriend starts off really loving, but she realizes that this is not necessarily the case, and the relationship becomes very emotionally abusive, very psychologically abusive, and we follow her through that relationship. Her being in the relationship, getting out of it, getting back into it. We know how hard it is to leave an abusive relationship. And I think this was such a powerful look at what emotional and psychological abuse is. I think a lot of people think that, oh, it's not physical abuse, so I'm not being abused. And that is so not accurate. So much can happen to your mind, to your well-being, to your spirit, to your soul, that is detrimental to your mental, physical health in an emotionally or psychologically abusive relationship. And I just felt this was such a powerful story. It did take me a minute to sink into it because the way the story is told is very, very different from your traditional nonfiction. And it took me a minute to settle into it. The chapters are very short. They're not necessarily linear in the timeline. We get little bits and little life lessons and little instances throughout. A lot of the chapters are under a minute long. But once I got into the style, I really, really appreciated the story fully. I was appreciating what it was saying and also the author's experiences the whole way through. But again, it took me a minute to settle into how it was being told to me. but this would be a 5-star if I rated nonfiction. I don't, but 5 stars really. Like, honestly, what a powerful story. Highly, highly, highly recommend picking this up. It's a really fast read. Now, over the weekend, I did read a little bit of the next book for this vlog and also for Summer Scare, because it is the B&K Book Club book. B&K Book Club was not supposed to be until Tuesday of this week, but Kelsey messaged me. Where did I put the book? It's up here. Kelsey messaged me and was like, hey, I picked up my copy and it's only a 7-day loan from the library. And I was like, oh, we need to do sprints earlier than planned then. So we ended up doing these on Friday night, very shortly after I chatted with all of you. And we started Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. I am using this for Summer Scare as well. Again, working my way through the bingo board for diverse representation. I think that's the prompt. This is a highly, highly, highly anticipated read for me. Obviously, Babel was my best book of the year 2 years ago, and I love R.F. Kuang's Dark Academia. I'm 150 pages in, and unfortunately, it was a slow start for me. I wasn't loving this book right from the get-go. It took me a minute. I was still really, really liking it. It was like 4-star, which is still a really, really great book. But when you are so sure that a book is going to be 5-star, you're a little bit disappointed when it ends up being a 4-star, which is silly. That's my expectation. It's not the book. Like, my expectations might have been a bit too high. However, the last chapter I just read, chapter 10, was quite interesting. And I felt like I was being like really brought in by chapter 10. So I wonder if I just needed to like trust the process a little bit, and maybe it'll grow on me. It is a 500-page book. So like I still have a lot of the book to read. In this book, we follow Alice and Peter. Alice and Peter are both students at Cambridge. They're studying magic. They need recommendation letters from their professor. However, their professor just died. Alice was actually there when he died. And now they are descending into hell to get his recommendation from them, like to find him in hell. And they're using all these like historical texts, all these philosophers' texts, all sorts of different mythologies and beliefs around hell, and kind of combining them to find their way through hell. We have Greek mythology mentioned in here. We have Egyptian mythology mentioned in here. We obviously have Dante's Inferno mentioned in here. So many. And we're using all these texts and, again, things from, you know, history and mythology and all these things, and combining them together in this book. And I am enjoying it. Again, it's probably sitting at like a 4-star for me. I was just assuming it would be a 5. So I'm a little let down. I think also comparison is not helping in this instance, because I keep comparing it to Ninth House and Hellbent, which are very different. However, the general idea is similar, and I, at this point, liked those better than this one. But, again, I still have 400 pages to read, so I reserve the right to come back and be like, this is a 5-star. I just needed to give myself a minute. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to continue to read this and hopefully finish this by Saturday. That's my goal, because obviously Weekend at Timmies starts on Saturday, and my next book for this vlog is my Weekend at Timmies read. So my plan is to finish this by Saturday. It is a bit of a dense read. Even though I'm enjoying it, it's dense. So it's going to take me a minute, but I think I can do it. I think I can finish by Saturday. So I was going to come back and check in with you before I got to this point. However, I had nothing to say. I had nothing to tell you about Katabasis. This has not gotten more interesting for me. Unfortunately, I am so bored. I am so bored. And the only reason I'm finishing it is because it is for book club. I probably would have DNF'd. I don't know how we made a journey through hell so boring. I don't know. I feel like this setting is not nearly as exciting as I expected it to be. We are in hell. I want descriptions of hell. And I feel like they're just very like bland. I feel like Alice and Peter are very bland. Something major just happened in this book, and I should have cared a lot more than I did. And that just shows that I'm not connected to the characters, and I'm not connected to this story. I wanted to finish before Weekend at Timmies started, because obviously my next book for this vlog, I'm going to be reading during Weekend at Timmies. Weekend at Timmies started today. It starts in like the starting sprints are in like 20 minutes. and I did not finish Katabasis in that time. I will come back and finish it after the weekend is over, but I don't think I will read much of this weekend. And honestly, again, I really just don't care. I do not care about this book. I am this far through. I am 400 pages in at chapter 27. And truly, I do not care. And that makes me so, so sad because, again, this was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I love R.F. Kuang. This comes from a person who reads a lot of dark academia. Okay, I read a lot of it. And I really like it normally. I don't like everything. Nobody likes everything in a genre. But this one just is not working for me. There are moments where I get bought in, but those moments are just so small. It's like a chapter here, a chapter there, and then in between, I'm just like, oh my gosh, put me out of my misery. I am cooked. But that's me currently. I will give you my final review on this when I finish, because maybe the last 150 pages will change my mind. But as of right now, I would have DNF'd this. Just so you know, which is so disappointing. If you want to know what my biggest disappointment of the year is, Katabasis. My biggest disappointment of the year. By like a long shot. This was like, I thought for sure best book of the year. I thought if anything could take over what I have currently as my best book of the year, it was going to be this one. And this is looking like a 3-star at the moment. And that is devastating. Honestly, like I am devastated. I'm devastated telling you all this information. Like I feel like I'm letting you all down, but it is what it is. I have to live my truth. And that's my truth. So we're just going to put it down for the weekend. I think I could use a break, honestly. From reading this, maybe a break will also help. I don't know. I've been reading it very slowly too. And yeah, it's dense, but it's not dense enough that I need to be reading it that slowly. It is just reading slowly because I am bored. That's really the reason. I have no desire to pick it up. When I put it down, I'm like, oh, whatever. And that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted from R.F. Kuang. But here we are. Anyway, it's Weekend at Timmy's. It's Weekend at Timmy's, and one of the prompts for Weekend at Timmy's is a book that will make you cry. I have a book on tackling Timmies on my Timmies TBR that I put on specifically for this purpose, and that is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Frederick Bachman. This is going to make me sob, let's be honest. And I'm going to be on sprints for the next 8 hours. So very likely I might cry on the internet, which is not something I typically like to do, but you know, we might. This might evoke tears live on the internet. This is my last full-length Frederick Bachman book before I have read his entire backlist of full-length novels. I still think I have 2 novellas, or like 1 novella and a short story that I haven't read, or maybe 2 novellas and a short story. Anyway, I am done all the full-length novels after this one. And Frederick Bachman is an autobi author. It is an author that I fell in love with during Beartown. Fell in love with the winners specifically, being that my favorite Frederick Bachman. I recently read My Friends and cried and fell apart and gave it 5 stars. So I expect high things from this book. And I do think this is going to be the perfect change up for this vlog because I need something to like do something different for me. I need to feel something because right now I'm just feeling nothing when it comes to Katabasis except boredom. So this will help me feel something. It might make me feel crushed, but I will feel something. So Weekend at Timmy sprints are well and on their way, and I have made it 100 pages into this book. Hold on, I made it 106 pages, and I just finished chapter 10. So I know a little bit more about what's going on in this book. This book follows Elsa. She is 7 years old. Her best friend is her grandmother. She is living with her mom and her stepfather, George, and they are about to have a new baby. And she is kind of going through a lot of transition in her very young life. Her parents have gotten divorced. They have both started new lives with new people, and she is being bounced back and forth a little bit. She's starting to have a half sibling and feeling the feelings that a 7-year-old would have in that instance. And she is being quite bullied at school. It is actually very hard to watch the abuse that is happening to her at school. It's not on page much or often, but it is talked about, and my heart just breaks for this little girl because She has a lot going on for someone so little, and her best friend is her grandmother. And her grandmother and her have a very special relationship. They really just have this make-believe world in the apartment in which they all live, with all the different people who live in the apartment and the stories of make-believe and fairy that her and her grandmother have come up with. And her grandmother is the bright spot in her day. Her grandmother is the one that maybe is looking out for her and getting involved with the school a little bit to help with the bullying, but her grandmother is ill. Her grandmother is very sick. Her grandmother has cancer, and we do see her pass very, very early on in this book. And we see Elsa now, on top of everything else that Elsa is dealing with, now dealing with the loss of her grandmother, and she is really struggling. She's trying her best, but she's 7 years old. But her grandmother has left her with this letter to give to one of the people living in the apartment building, and I think this is going to send her on quite the journey. I've kind of started to see the beginnings of this journey, and I'm interested to see where we go and what this kind of takes us to, where we're going to lead through the course of this story, because I mean, Frederick Bachman, he doesn't shy away from hard topics. He never does. Never, ever does. He doesn't shy away from giving you those life lessons. I anticipate seeing a lot of life lessons in this book, as I normally would with a Frederick Bachman. And I just don't know where this one's going to go fully, because this one is really different from any Frederick Bachman I've ever seen, because obviously we're following a 7-year-old girl and we are in her point of view. I mean, there is an external narrator, but the main person we're following, we're in her headspace. We are with Elsa. So it is a really different vibe because it's not an adult. We're seeing everything from the perspective of a 7-year-old. And even when she's describing what the adults are doing, you're kind of like, okay, what is she seeing? Because she's describing at it as a 7-year-old would see a situation, not necessarily how the situation would have necessarily played out, because obviously kids' perspectives are very different than adults. And we're getting bits and pieces. And she's relating things as if they were stories. There's a dog that lives in the apartment, and she keeps calling it a Wurser, which is this magical creature her grandmother made up. So we have even bits where we're like, okay, what are we talking about? Who is what? The monster is who? Who is everybody? And how does this all relate together? At first, I wasn't sure if I was liking this. I was a little bit like, okay, we're going to be in a child's head for the entire time. How is that going to work? Am I going to like that style of telling me a story? But it took me a second, and now I'm into it. Now I'm in, and I'm really enjoying the story for what it is. And I really just want Elsa to have a good life. I want her to have a good life, but I don't know how we're going to get there. I know we're going to get there. I know we're going to get there. I know we're going to pass through this grief that she's going through. We're going to get there, but I have to go along for the ride with this. One thing I wanted to mention that was one of the people who lives in this apartment building is Britt Marie, which obviously is the same character in Britt Marie Was Here, which is another Frederick Bachman book. I do believe this one takes place first. I think Britt Marie would be acting a little bit differently in this book if it was after her book, because she goes through a lot of life lessons and life changes in her book that maybe would make her act a little bit differently in this one. So I do think this one came first. But it was nice to see her and Kent just pop up in this book. And for a second I was like, wait, is this just a cameo? Is it a cameo and we just see them for a second? No, Britt Marie's a big part of this book. She's a big part of what's going on in this apartment building. And she's front and center, honestly. She's a side character, but she is front and center for sure. So I'm going to keep reading this afternoon on sprints. And I don't think I'll finish this today. I would be surprised. I mean, we only have about 4 more hours of sprints left. I might read a little after sprints, but if not, I'll finish it tomorrow. But yeah, I will come back to you when I finish, because I don't think my thoughts are going to drastically change throughout the book. And we'll just see how I feel about it overall at the end. Frederick Bachman never disappoints. Absolutely never. I'm going to give this a 4-star. The only reason it wasn't a 5 was because I do think we had a little bit too much of the fairy tale land, the fairy tale story that her grandmother made up, that they kind of have this secret relationship around in this book. Every time we went too deeply into the land of Almost Awake or Almost Asleep, I forget which one it is. Anytime we delved too deeply into that, I was a little bit checked out of that storyline. I understood why it needed to be there, because obviously it explains this entire like found family in this house. It's a really big house with like many, many flats, and we meet basically everybody who lives there, and we find out that everybody who lives there is there for a reason. I won't go too deeply into that because I think it's fun to like find out why they're all there as you go through the book, but they all interact with each other, and there is a found family aspect to this house in this building. And obviously the building is the land of almost or not awake or whatever it's called. Anyway, it's her grandmother's way of like explaining why everyone is in this house with these like fairy tale stories about princesses and princesses and dogs, which are called wurses, and all these things. So I understood why they were there. It just kind of kept it from being a 5-star for me, but like a 4-star is very, very good. And I really enjoyed this book overall. One thing that I wish I had done differently, my least favorite Frederick Bachman is Britt Marie Was Here. And by least favorite, it's a 3-star. Like, I love Frederick Bachman, so like I score all of his books fairly highly. 4-star, 5-star, I think that's my only 3-star book. And this book takes place before that book. And Britt Marie is not a main character in this book, but she's certainly not a side character either. She's quite prominent in this book. And I think I would have enjoyed her story more had I read this one first, because I think this gives a lot of context into who Britt Marie is entering her story. It is even hinted at the end that she's going to have her own story, and I do wish I would read them in the reverse order. So if you haven't read these two, I would recommend reading this one first. You don't have to, but I do think the context of what her life was before that story would give you a lot of empathy for Britt Marie. It would give you a lot of understanding into why she's acting the way she's acting at the beginning of that book and throughout that book. And I just think that context would have helped me like that better. And I think it would have been a 4-star read had I read this one first. Honestly, I might reread it at some point because I'm out of full-length Frederick Bachman's to read anyway. And I think I would like it better upon reread because I know more about her now. I understand her more going into that book from this book. Some of the topics covered in here, I mean, we talk about neurodivergency in this book. We talk about PTSD. We talk about so many things, divorce, rebuilding of families, blending families. So many things are covered in this book and done so well, as again, I expect. Frederick Bachman always tackles some heavy issues and always does it very, very well. I am saddened that I have no other full-length books from him to read. I do have a couple novellas left and a short story. I think I have 2 novellas and a short story, but like I am basically done at this point. And I know that he said that My Friends might be his last book, which is so sad. But you know what? If it is, it is. It was a great last book, honestly, 5 stars for me. So I will see. I will see if he puts anything else out. If not, I will just have to reread my favorites. I guess that's just what I'll have to do. And I think I'm going to start with Britt Marie Was Here because, again, I do think I would like that one better after reading this. So this one is done. I did not cry during this, but it did get me emotional many a time throughout the process. So I'm done. I'm going to go finish Katabasis because obviously I'm quite close to the end of that anyway. But I was actually really glad for that break from this. And to read something a bit different, change it up a little bit, and now I'm going to go back and finish that one out. So it is time to really talk about Katabasis. It is time. I know we've already chatted about it a couple times, but I have finished. And I was left at the end of this book kind of going, what was the point plot-wise? Not commentary-wise. I do think there was really good commentary in this book. It is an Arab book. Like, an Arab book is not bad. Like, this is not a bad book. She is immensely intelligent. And the things that she can do with story, not just anybody can do. And I want to preface this conversation with that because, like, I recognize that. You know how much I love R.F. Kuang. Like, I have adored many an R.F. Kuang in the past. I have gone on about Babel for 2 years. So, like, let's just preface this conversation with that. But plot-wise, I was left going, what was the point by the end of this book? What did the characters really do in this book? What was the plot of this book overall and in the long run? And I don't really have an answer to that. I could say, oh, there's a romance. Oh, there's a coming of age story, perhaps. Perhaps. They're all inklings underneath the surface plot-wise. Again, outside the commentary. The commentary does have a point. There's actually quite a few. But like, outside of that, just the story and the plot, I felt very dissatisfied with as we went through and right up until the end. When we got to the end of the story, I was like, that's all we're going to do. That's it. That's over. The end. What? Why? And I'm so devastated by this because this was my most anticipated release of the year, and I'm going to give it 3 stars. 3 whole stars. The things I liked about this, because again, 3 stars is not a bad rating. It's just nowhere near what I was expecting to give this book. I went in with such high expectations that 3 stars feels devastating. But 3 stars is not a horrible rating. Again, back to that early preface that I said about this book. So the things I liked, I really did enjoy the commentary in this book. The commentary about women in academia. The commentary around academia as a whole. The commentary about what life really means. What living really means. Life and death. Things of that nature. I really appreciated all of those commentaries in the book. I also really just love how R.F. Kuang brings academia to us in books in general. The math concepts in here, the logic concepts in here. If you're worried though, opening this up, that you need to be like a PhD student to understand this book, you don't. A lot of those things are not necessary to follow the plot. They are just there as add-ons for those who do appreciate those. I didn't understand them all. I understood some, didn't understand them all. That's okay. I really felt like we were really learning a lot about logistics in this book and logic, not logistics, but logic in this book. And I really appreciated that look. Again, I really liked the way we brought many different mythologies and different belief systems in the afterlife and kind of blended them all together into this book and into this look of hell as well. However, I do think that this setting was lacking. You had so much of that you could pull on, and you did reference it, but it wasn't a deep, rich setting. There were a lot of times that I could forget we were in hell, and that's kind of odd for books set in hell. Like, I want the setting to be really atmospheric, and I don't feel like we hit on that. And again, I do think the plot overall kind of took a back seat to the commentary, to the other things going on. And I think we could have, built that up a bit too. So here we are, 3 stars. We're ending this vlog in a way that I never could have expected because this is the last book for this vlog. September is almost over. Today is September 27th. Like, I need to end this vlog because September is over. It's almost time to start my October TBR. Like, this is where we are. We're going to end it here. But wow, I thought we would be getting a 5-star out of this. I mean, when I read Dark Air in this, I was like, ooh, we are going to have some great books in this vlog. And we did have some great books in this vlog. But I thought we were going to have like 2 best books of the year in this vlog, and ended up with my biggest disappointment of the year, which is shocking. We did also get my best book of the year because honestly, Dark Air, Dark Rise, amazing series. So not all is lost, but here we are. That's how we're going to end it. If you've made it all the way to the end of this vlog and want to let me know you were here, but don't have anything to say, aren't feeling so chatty, leave a crown emoji down in the comments because Dark Air, Dark Rise focuses around the rise of a dark king. And I just think a crown emoji is perfect to celebrate what is my best book of the year so far. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.